And now, another episode of I Don't Want to Hear This. All right, bloating and SIBO. Do you look like you're wearing a fanny pack underneath your shirt? What is that? Is it fat? Is it bloating? Is it a colony of disgusting roundworms? It's actually a combination of stuff for most people. Some of it is fat. Some of it is fecal matter. I know a lot of this is disgusting, but even though you go to the bathroom several times a day, most people are still constipated because they don't have enough bile to push that stuff out of there, which is a lubricant that makes things flow. Some of it is a fatty liver, which is really unhealthy, kind of dangerous actually, and some of it is SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, and some of it is bloating. When you have parasites and bacteria, those are living things. They eat, they poop, and they fart, just like you do. You have thousands or millions of these things pooping and farting. You create lots of gas, and that makes you bloat. So that's one of them. But it's actually more than that also, and that's what we're going to get into here. SIBO stands for small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. It grows in your small intestine, which is not supposed to have a lot of bacteria. And actually the term small intestine is a misnomer. They shouldn't call it a small intestine. They should call it the long intestine because it's like a 25-foot garden hose all crunched up inside you. And then the last 3 or 4 feet is your large intestine. That's your colon. And there's a valve separating the two. The colon's where all the bacteria is supposed to be, the good bacteria, the gut probiotics. That's where all the action happens. But the small refers to the narrow diameter of the small intestine, which is really long. Don't think it's small. It's actually really long. And there shouldn't be a lot of bacteria in there, but a lot of people have bacteria growing in there, and it's stuck in there, and it's growing like crazy. It's having an orgy. It's protected. You can't get to it really easily, and that's why it grows in there, and it's just a big, nasty mess in there. So how'd you get it? How do you get rid of it? Well, first of all, you don't take antibiotics. Antibiotics is just bad news all around. It goes through your whole body and kills everything, including the good bacteria, which you need bacteria in your gut that eats oxalates. And when you take antibiotics, you kill that, and you might usually never get it back. So people end up getting kidney stones, and that's actually a big part of people who take antibiotics. Why'd you take antibiotics? Well, all of this mess starts with what you put in your mouth. And I know you've heard this a million times, but we got to start there because that's the beginning of the whole process. So it all starts with what you choose to put in your mouth. And most people choose food that tastes good and has nice texture on their tongue. And that usually means sweet food and carbs, refined carbs especially, pasta, pizza, cookies, crackers, bread, and all that stuff. That is where it all starts. Now, it goes into your stomach, and your stomach is this pot of acid, which is supposed to break down your food and make it a mush, which then goes further and continue the process. The trouble is when you eat carbs, especially refined carbs like bread and things like that, bread is like a sponge. It absorbs your stomach acid like a sponge, so now you have low acid. Not only that, it also feeds yeast, which lowers it even more and absorbs even more stomach acid. And then you have H. pylori. That's a bacteria that loves bread, sugar, and all that other stuff, but it doesn't want to be in a pot of acid. So what does it do? H. pylori releases ammonia, which is an alkaline substance that neutralizes stomach acid so it can survive in your stomach. So now you have very low stomach acid, and you have this bacteria going crazy, munching away and reproducing and farting and all that stuff also. So anyway, so now you're not digesting your food properly, and it's going through your stomach into your small intestine. And what is acid? It's also a barrier of protection. It's supposed to kill bacteria. So when you have low stomach acid, your protective barrier of acid is not protecting you very much, and bacteria gets through your stomach into your small intestine, and it starts reproducing and having a party in there. Not only that, you're feeding the bacteria with your bread and your pasta and your cereal and your cookies and crackers and pizza. It's all sugar and carbs. That feeds bacteria. Now you have this half-digested food going into your small intestine with bacteria going in there, and it starts to grow. There's something else missing there also, and that is bile. Bile is usually released at that point in the upper small intestine for several reasons. One of the purposes of bile is to kill bacteria. So it helped keep your small intestine sterile so it doesn't have all this bacteria growing there. The second thing bile does is it lubricates, so stuff gets through the system. It just kind of flows like, it's like oiling it up so it flows. And of course, it also breaks down fats and oils. Now, most people nowadays are afraid of fats and oils. They are low fat, high carb, right? They eat a lot of carbs or protein, but mainly carbs, and they want to be low fat. Well, bile is only produced and released when you eat fats or oils. That's when it triggers. There's a signal sent, and it says, oh, we need to break down these fats. Then bile is produced, and then it starts being released. Well, if you have a low-fat diet or a no-fat diet, you're not producing bile. And what happens? Well, the bile just kind of dries up and becomes this sludgy goo, which clogs up your bile ducts and eventually dries up and becomes stones, which you don't want. So a lot of people who have gallstones are actually low-fat people who eat a lot of carbs. They think they're eating healthy because they're low-fat, but they don't have bile and they end up getting stones. They have their gallbladder removed and they have all kinds of other issues also. So hopefully you're not one of those people who've gotten to that point. Because you're not eating enough healthy fat, you're not releasing bile, and that is not killing the bacteria, and it's not helping things flow smoothly through your system. So now you have fecal matter backed up, sludging you up in there, and it's just the big mess. You've got this backed up sewer system with bacteria growing in there, and maybe even some parasites, and maybe even some roundworms and hookworms and tapeworms, and who knows what's growing and partying in there. All because your stomach wasn't working right, because it wasn't protecting you, because you're eating bread and carbs and pizza and cereal and cookies and crackers and all that refined carbs and sugar. And yes, even fruit sugar can feed these things because sugar is sugar. Any kind of sugar is a universal fuel source that feeds anything: bacteria, mold, fungus, yeast, parasites. So here's what you do. The first step to stopping this madness is to, for a while, just for a while, stop the sugar, okay? Stop all sweet fruits. Stop all bread and carbs, and especially refined carbs. This is not a life sentence. This is, look, do you want to get rid of the SIBO and the bloating or not? I know this is tough for people, and they get angry when I say stop the sweet fruits. Oh, but fruit is so good for you. I didn't say it wasn't, okay? But it's got sugar in it, and you need to stop the sugar for a while. Look, if you want to get rid of the bloating, you got to cut all fuel sources that this stuff thrives on. And it helps to weaken it and possibly even kill it. But don't use antibiotics. What you should be using is more natural ways of killing things. For example, herbs like my parasite formula, which is the most powerful herbal formula in the world for killing bacteria, mold, fungus, yeast, parasites, anything that grows. Now, you might say, well, doesn't that kill the bacteria in your colon also, your large? Well, not as much, because it goes to 25 feet of small intestine first, and that's where it kind of dissolves and peters off and does all its stuff, and that's where the SIBO is. That's where you want it to do its job. By the time it gets to past your ileocecal valve into your colon, there isn't that much left. And there is some. I mean, if you take a lot of it and you don't eat, then yeah, it'll go through there, but it's not going to do the damage that antibiotics does. This is a more natural way of doing it. So one of the first things is, again, the most important step is to stop the sugar and stop the refined carbs. That's number one. You cannot just simply take something, no matter what it is, and hope to kill it while you're still feeding it at the same time. Because you're strengthening it by feeding it, and then you're trying to weaken it and kill it at the same. That's going to piss it off. I mean, if somebody's trying to feed you and kill you at the same time, you're going to get pretty irritated. So you got to stop the food supply. I know it's not fun. And so basically, what's left to eat? Okay, well, you eat anything that is not a refined carb. Eat things from the produce section. Try to stay away from sweet fruits, vegetables that grow above ground. The below ground stuff, beets, carrots, potatoes, all that stuff, it's high sugar, high starch. That anything that you love, they love too. I mean, think about that. They're living things. They love sugar just like you do. They love carbs just like you do. That's why they're there, because you're feeding them. So stop feeding them. And that means you got to stop what you love to eat for a while, because that will starve them out too. And when they're weak and they just want to leave, some of them leave on their own. Even when they say, well, there's no food here, I'm just going to leave on my own. And that's how a lot of people poop out parasites, because there's nothing left for them to eat. They don't like them. They don't like nasty green juices. They don't like nasty bitter things like, bitter melon and stuff like that. That's step one, is cut off the food supply. I know you're not going to like it either, but that's part of the process, is to starve the bad things. Did you know cucumber's a fruit? Did you know an olive is a fruit? Did you know an avocado is a fruit? Oh, but those aren't sweet. Oh, you want the sweet fruits? Well, stop it, because that's what started the problem in the first place. All this craving for sugar. Anyway, so I got to get all this information out really fast. That's why I'm talking really fast. So there you go. All right. So anyway, stop the food supply and then kill them off with the parasite formula. You can get it at marcusproducts.com, or you can get it at Amazon. Formula PF is what it's called. I can't use the P word on Amazon, so it's the same stuff. It's just called Formula PF on Amazon. It's called Parasite Free on marcusproducts.com. You should be doing it for 3 months because you can't just get rid of it in a day or two or a week. When parasites die, they drop eggs to keep the species going, and it's this long process. Eggs can't be killed very easily until they hatch, so you got to go through the process. And bacteria, everything wants to stay alive. Nothing wants to die. It's going to fight you along the way. You just got to go through it. It doesn't mean you have to starve yourself for that whole time. Just be smart with your food. Stop the bread, stop the refined carbs. And more refined carbs means anything that's ground into a flour, especially wheat, but anything that's ground into a flour and baked in an oven. That's a good start. That means crackers, bread, cereal, pasta, pizza, anything that is baked in an oven that was ground into a flour, that's a refined carb. And that's usually the stuff that you like. It includes granola bars. It includes rice. I'm sorry. Yes, it includes rice. You're going to have to be pretty Spartan with what you're eating. It doesn't mean you have to starve yourself. You can still get the same amount of calories. Just focus more on protein and some fats. Nuts, seeds, peanut butter, whatever it is. Just stay away from the refined carbs as much as possible. The parasite pills, you start with 1, then you do 2 the next day, then you do 3 the day after that, then you do 4. You work your way up to 12. It's pretty strong stuff. And then you stay that way for 3 months. You want to be relentless. You want to just nuke those guys. You need healthy fats. That's why I'm saying peanut butter and stuff like that, or any kind of nut butter, because you need to produce bile. If you don't produce bile, you are not killing off the bacteria in your small intestine, and you are not lubricating your small intestine, which means you've got fecal matter backed up in there and it's not moving, it's just sticking in there. Even if you go to the bathroom several times a day, that does not mean you're not constipated. I guarantee you, almost everybody out there is constipated to some degree. So I know you're going to swear you're not, but even if you have diarrhea, even if you poop 3 times a day, it doesn't mean you're not constipated. You remember, you have 30 to 40 feet of tubing in there, and a lot of it's stuck way up high, and it's not moving because you have a low-fat diet and you don't have enough bile going. I'm going to do a whole video on bile coming up. That'll be a whole other thing. But basically, you need to stop the carbs and the sugar for a while. That means fruit juice too. It does. Do whatever you can. I mean, yeah, if you want to do quinoa and stuff like that, fine. Stay away from the rice and the high starch, high sugar stuff. Stay away from beets and carrots and potatoes that are high starch, high sugar. Remember, your body can produce its own glucose. You don't have to eat sugar to stay alive. So it's really important to minimize anything that feeds bacteria, viruses, fungus, mold, yeast, and cancer. Loves that stuff. The fastest way to grow cancer and bacteria in a petri dish in a lab is put a drop of sugar in there and it'll poof like an atom bomb. It just grows like crazy. All right, so it's really hard to get rid of SIBO because it's in a protected spot. You got a valve below your stomach. You got a valve at the end before it gets to your large intestine. It's protected in there. That's why it loves to hang out in there. It grows in there. So you got to increase your stomach acid, put some apple cider vinegar in there, some lemon, whatever. Lemon juice. Stop. And another healthy people have low stomach acid. They do calcium pills. They do alkaline water. Alkaline water neutralizes your stomach acid. You think you're healthy, but you're not because you're wiping out your stomach acid. And when your stomach acid is neutralized, you're not digesting your food properly, and you're promoting H. pylori, which again releases ammonia, which neutralizes stomach acid even more. It's a bad chain reaction, and you're releasing half-digested food with bacteria into your small intestine, where it just goes crazy. Most people, they only care about the gut sticking out because it's an unflattering thing to look at, and they don't really care about the health stuff. They just want the superficial stuff, but it's all connected. When you start being healthier, that gut starts going away and you look better, so you get the result that you want anyway, and you're healthy to boot. I don't know what else to say, but that's the way there you go. Bloating, SIBO, it's all connected. It's all connected. So get your parasite formula. Get a 3-month supply. That's 3 bottles. Each bottle is a month. Formula PF or parasite free. Stop eating the refined carbs, stop the fruit sugar, the fruit juice, anything sweet for a while. If you're going to eat, papaya is actually pretty good. That's not that sweet, but eat the papaya seeds also. Now, I know a lot of people are saying just eat papaya seeds and you'll be fine. There are so many different types of bacteria, so many different types of parasites. There isn't one thing that kills all of them. I know everybody has their favorite herb or whatever it is, a magical remedy, but there isn't one thing. Whatever hurts this thing doesn't affect this thing. So you have to take a whole variety, a whole slew, a witch's brew of herbs and things that kill all kinds of different stuff because there are so many thousands of different types of bacteria and parasites. There isn't one thing that kills them all. So do a variety of those. That's why the formula has all these different things in there. And stick with it, all right? Don't have your weak moments. Do you want to be bloated and have SIBO or not? I mean, I suggest you choose to not have it because you'll be healthier. It'll get rid of your fatty liver. That's just a big chain reaction asking for problems there. I'll maybe do a video on that. And raise your stomach acid. Start exercising, getting sunlight, drinking water, stop the coffee, stop the alcohol, all the stuff that I keep lecturing you about. It's all in there. Stop cheating. You're only hurting yourself by cheating. Nobody else cares. You should care about yourself. It's, all these little things you sneak in there and go, I'm going to do this. It makes me feel good. Like, why live if I can't have this? Well, it's quality of life, all right? That's a big part of it. Yeah, you go through a few months of like, and then after a while, you feel better and you have a better life, and then you can do whatever you want and go back to your old evil ways again, and then the cycle repeats itself. But I'm the guy warning you, telling you what to do, and that's that. I sure talk a lot, don't I? I guess I do, but I need to get you the information. Okay. Now I can done my job. Now I can go have a weekend. All right. Well, I hope I helped you a little bit. I hope I hopefully inspired you, scared you, whatever it is, to motivate you to go change your evil ways and have a wonderful, healthy, happy life, because that's what it's all about. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. No, there is no anti-parasite ice cream. No, there's no anti-parasite pizza either. Or anti-parasite bread.